Hello, BookTube, and welcome to another Read Aloud. Another example where I read you a book with copious interruptions, and we all have lots of fun. And we did Mr. Scarborough's Family last, and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And I could have moved on to something else. We will move on to other things, but we're going to stick with Trollope for the next book. And this is The Claverlings, a much earlier novel than Mr. Scarborough's Family, written at the height of Trollope's power when he was making a good deal of money as a writer. And we're going to read chapter 1 now to start things off. This chapter is called Julia Brabazon, and she will be one of our major characters, and she's talking to another one of our major characters. So this is chapter 1 of The Claverlings. The gardens of Claverling Park were removed some 300 yards from the large, square, somber-looking stone mansion, which was the country house of Sir Hugh Claverling, the 11th baronet of that name. And in these gardens, which had but little of beauty to recommend them, I will introduce my readers to two of the personages with whom I wish to make them acquainted in the following story. It was now the end of August, and the patters and the beds and the bits of lawn were dry, disfigured, almost ugly from the effects of a long drought. In gardens to which care and labor are given abundantly, flower beds will be pretty and grass will be green, let the weather be what it may. But care and labor were but scantily bestowed on the Claverling gardens, and everything was yellow, adust, harsh, and dry. Over the burnt turf towards the gate that led to the house, a lady was walking, and by her side there walked a gentleman. Note the note we get right away. Two notes we get right away. It's not a happy opening. We know that right away. It's the surroundings set that up. They're dry and dusty and burnt. And note something else that we get. We don't know anything at all about the folks at Claverling Hall, but we know they don't take care of their garden. Well, that's something. You are going in then, Miss Brabazon, said the gentleman, and it was very manifest from his tone that he intended to convey some deep reproach in his words. Of course I am going in, said the lady. You asked me to walk with you, and I refused. You have now waylaid me, and therefore I shall escape, unless I am prevented by violence. As she spoke, she stood still for a moment and looked into his face with a smile which seemed to indicate that if such violence were used within rational bounds, she would not feel herself driven to great anger. But though she might be inclined to be playful, he was by no means in that mood. And why did you refuse me when I asked you? He said. For two reasons. Partly because I thought it better to avoid any conversation with you. Well, I must say, that's civil from an old friend. But chiefly, and now she spoke, she drew herself up and dismissed the smile from her face and allowed her eyes to fall upon the ground. But chiefly because I thought that Lord Ongar would prefer that I should not roam alone about Claverling Park with any young gentleman while I am down here. And he might especially object to my roaming with you were he to know that you and I were old acquaintances. Now I have been very frank, Mr. Claverling, and I think that ought to be enough. So you're already afraid of him, then? I am afraid of offending anyone whom I love, and especially one to whom I intend to owe my duty. Enough. Indeed, it is not enough. For what you know... yes, okay. From what you know of me, do you think it likely that will be enough? He was now standing in front of her, between her and the gate, and she made no effort to leave him. And what is it you want? I suppose you do not mean to fight Lord Ongar, and if you did, you would not come to me. Fight him? No, I have no quarrel with him. Fighting him would do no good. None in the least. He would not fight with you if you were to ask him, and you could not ask him without being false to me. I should have had an example of that, at any rate. This cutting back and forth going on here, about which we know nothing. Keep in mind, this is chapter 1. We don't know anything about this. But we know these two have a lot of history, and the comments are cutting here. That's nonsense, Mr. Claverling. My falsehood, if you should choose to call me false, is of a very different nature, and is pardonable by all laws known in the world. You are a jilt, that is all. Come, Harry, don't use Hard's word. Notice she's shifting between his formal name and his first name. And she put her hand kindly upon his arm. Look at me, such as I am, and at yourself, and then say whether anything but misery would come of a match between you and me. Our ages by the register are the same, but I am 10 years older than you by the world. I have 200 a year and owe at the moment 600 pounds. You have perhaps double as much and would lose half if you married me. You are an usher at a school. No, madam, I am not an usher at a school. Well, you know I don't mean to make you angry. At the present moment I am a schoolmaster, and if I remain so, I might fairly look forward to a liberal income, but I am going to give that up. You will not be more fit for matrimony because you are giving up your profession. Now, Lord Ongar has, oh, heaven knows what, perhaps 60,000 a year. In all my life I never heard such effrontery, such barefaced, shameless worldliness. Why should I not love a man with a large income? He is old enough to be your father. He is 36, and I am 24. 36. There is the peerage for you to look at, meaning Burke's peerage, which was a record of the hoity-toity of the powerful people in the landed gentry in the land. She's saying to Miss Harry Claverling, if you don't believe he's 36, you can just go and look it up. Because I guess we're supposed to infer that Lord Ongar does not look or seem only 36. But, my dear Harry, do you not know that you are perplexing me and yourself for nothing? I was a fool enough when I came here from Nice after Papa's death to let you talk nonsense to me for a month or two. Did you or did you not swear that you loved me? Oh, Mr. Claverling, I did not imagine that your strength would have condescended to take such advantage over the weakness of a woman. I remember no oaths of any kind, and what foolish assertions I may have made I am not going to repeat. It must have become manifest to you during those 2 years that all was a romance. If it be pleasure to you to look back on it, of that pleasure I cannot deprive you. Perhaps I may also sometimes look back on it. But I shall never speak of that time again, and you, if you are as noble as I take you to be, will not speak of it either. I know you would not wish to injure me. So we can see already that a lot of the gimmicks here, the gestures, were still on Trollope's mind 15 years later. This is very similar to parts of the last book we read. It occurs to me now that we should probably read them in order, but that ship has sailed. I would wish to save you from the misery you are bringing on yourself. In that, you must allow me to look after myself. Lord Ongar certainly wants a wife, and I intend to be true to him and useful. But how about love? And to love him, sir. Do you think that no man can win a woman's love unless he's filled to the brim with poetry and has a neck like Lord Byron and is handsome like your worship? You are very handsome, Harry, and you, too, should go into the market and make the best of yourself. Why should you not learn to love some nice girl who has money to assist you? Julia. No, sir, I will not be called Julia. If you do so, I will be insulted and will leave you instantly. I may call you Harry, as being so much younger, though we were both born in the same month, and of a sort of cousin. But I shall never do that after today. Are we learning something about Julia here? You have courage enough, then, to tell me that you have not ill-used me? Certainly I have. Why, what a fool you would have me to be. Look at me, and tell me whether I am fit to be the wife of one such as you. By the time you are entering the world, I shall be an old woman, and shall have lived my life. Even if I were fit to be your mate when we were living here together, am I fit after what I have done and seen during the past 2 years? Do you think it would really do any good to anyone if I were to jilt, as you call it, Lord Ongar, and tell them all, your cousins, Sir Hugh, my sister, your father, that I was going to keep myself up and marry you when you were ready for me? You mean to say that this evil is done? No, indeed. At the present moment I owe 600 pounds, and I don't know where to turn for it, so that my husband may not be dunned for my debts as soon as he married me. What a wife should I be to you, should I not? I could pay the 600 pounds for you with money I have earned myself, though you do call me an usher, and perhaps would ask fewer questions about it than Lord Ongar will do with all of his thousands. Dear Harry, I beg your pardon about the usher part. Okay, of course I know you are a fellow of your college, and that St. Cuthbert's, where you teach the boys, is one of the grandest schools in England, and I hope you'll be a bishop. Nay, I think you will, if you make up your mind to try for it. I have given up all idea of going into the church. Then you'll be a judge. I know you'll be a great and distinguished, and that you'll do all by yourself. You are distinguished already. If you could only know how infinitely I should prefer your lot to mine. Oh, Harry, I envy you. I do envy you. You get the ball at your feet and the world before you and can win everything for yourself. But nothing is anything without your love. Oh, pshaw, love indeed. What could I do but ruin you? You know it as well as I do. But you are selfish enough to wish to continue a romance that would be absolutely destructive to me, though for a while it might afford a pleasant relaxation of your graver studies. Harry, you can choose the world. You have divinity and law and literature and art, and if debarred from love now by the exigencies of labor, you will be as fit for love in 10 years' time as you are at present. The point that they're trying to make here with the lapse of time that might be lost on the 21st century is that she and he are both saying that he would need to wait 10 years, or a while anyway, maybe not a whole 10 years, in order to have enough income and stature to have a wife and start a family. That's what they're both talking about, that he's too young and relatively poor to marry now. But I do love now. Be a man then and keep it to yourself. Love is not to be your master. You can choose, as I say, but I have no choice. No choice but to be married well or to go out like a snuff of a candle. I don't like the snuff of a candle, and therefore I am going to be married well. And that suffices? It must suffice. And why should it not suffice? You are very uncivil, cousin, and very unlike the rest of the world. Everybody compliments me on my marriage. Lord Ongar is not only rich, but he is a man of fashion and a man of talent. Are you fond of racehorses yourself? Very fond of them. And of that kind of life? Very fond of it. I mean to be fond of everything that Lord Ongar likes. I know that I can't change him, and therefore I shall not try. You're right there, Miss Brabazon. You mean to be impertinent, sir, but I will not take it so. This is to be our last meeting in private, and I won't acknowledge that I am insulted. But it must be over now, Harry, and here I have been pacing round and round the garden with you in spite of my refusal just now. It must not be repeated, or things will be said which I do not mean to have ever said of me. Goodbye, Harry. Goodbye, Julia. Well, for that once, let it pass. And remember this, I have told you all my hopes and my one trouble. I have been thus open with you because I thought it might serve to make you look at things in a true light. I trust your honor as a gentleman to repeat nothing that I have said to you. I am not given to repeat such things as these. I am sure you are not, and I hope you will not misunderstand the spirit in which they have been spoken. I shall never regret that I have told you now, and if it tends to make you perceive that we must both regard our past acquaintance as a romance, which must, from the stern necessity of things, be treated as a dream which we dreamt, or poem which we read. You can treat it that way, if you please. God bless you, Harry. I will always hope for your welfare and hear of your success with joy. Will you come up and shoot with them on Thursday? It's a pleasant outing in a Trollope novel to load guns and go out and shoot animals dead. What, with Hugh? No, not you, Hugh, H-U-G-H. No, Hugh and I do not hit it off together. And if I shot at Claverling, I should have to do it as a sort of head keeper. It's a higher position, I know, than that of usher, but it doesn't suit me. Oh, Harry, that is cruel. But you must come up to the house. Lord Ongar will be there on the 31st, the day after tomorrow, you know. You can't get over that bit about you're an usher at your school. It's still bothering him. I must decline even the temptation. I never go into that house when Hugh is there except twice a year on solemn invitation, just to prevent there being a family quarrel. So there's tension here. Lots of it. Goodbye, then. And she offered her hand. Goodbye, if it must be so. I don't know whether you mean to grace my marriage. Certainly not. I shall be away from Claverlings so that the marriage bells will not wound my ears. For the matter of that, I shall be at the school. I suppose we shall meet some day in town? Most probably not. My ways and Lord Ongar's will altogether be different, even if I should succeed in getting up to London. If you ever come to see Hermione here, I may chance to meet you in the house, but you will not do that often, and the place is so dull and unattractive. It is the dearest old park. You won't care for much for old parks as Lady Ongar. You don't know what I may care about as Lady Ongar, but as Julia Brabazon, I will now say goodbye for the last time. Then they parted, and the lady returned to the great house, while Harry Claverling made his way across the park towards the rectory. So we're once again dealing with the son of a rectory whose name is Harry and who's good-looking. 3 years before this scene in the gardens at Claverling Park, Lord Brabazon had died at Nice. That beep, beep, beep you hear is Trollope getting ready to info dump. He's going to info dump all over you. You're not going to be able to keep it straight, but I suggest that for the if you're reading this book, a lot of you are just listening to me read it too, but if you're reading this book, I really suggest at this point that when we're done with the next 2 paragraphs, you take out a little sticky note and actually do a chart of who's who. Just a chart of who's who. And just stick it in the back cover of the book. So you can just refer to it until it's second nature. It will become second nature about halfway through the book. But it's a lot. So let's go through with the info dump. 3 years before this scene in the gardens at Claverling Park, Lord Brabazon had died at Nice, leaving one unmarried daughter, the lady to whom the reader has just been introduced. One other daughter he had, who was then already married to Sir Hugh Claverling, and Lady Claverling was the Hermione, of whom mention has already been made. So Hermione Claverling is Julia Brabazon's sister. Lord Brabazon, whose peerage had descended to him in a direct line from the times of the Plantagenets, was one of those unfortunate nobles of whom England is burdened with but few, who have no means equal to their rank. Here Trollope is being ironic. England, at the time that he was writing this book, had lots of nobles who had the title but could not keep up the property. He had married late in life and had died without a male heir. The title, which had come from the Plantagenets, was now lapsed, and when the last lord died, about 400 a year was divided between him and his 2 daughters. 400 a year, probably for a gigantic country estate and a house in town. That is not enough money. The elder had already made an excellent match, as regarded fortune, in marrying Sir Hugh Claverling, and the younger was now about to make a much more splendid match in her alliance with Lord Ongar. Of them, I do not know that it is necessary to say much more at present. Now, because we're going to hear a lot more about all of these people in the upcoming chapters. But what about the other young person in the garden? And of Harry Claverling, is perhaps maybe not be necessary to say much in the way of description. The attentive reader will have already gathered nearly all that should be known of him before he makes himself known by his own deeds. He was the only son of the Reverend Henry Claverling, rector of Claverling, uncle to the present Sir Hugh Claverling, and brother to the last Sir Hugh. The Reverend Henry Claverling and Mrs. Claverling, his wife, and their 2 daughters, Mary and Fanny Claverling, lived always at Claverling Rectory on the outskirts of Claverling Park, at a full mile's distance from the house. Trollope is having a little fun here, but it's still a nightmare for his readers. The church stood in the park about midway between the 2 residences, very similar to Mr. Scarborough's family. When I have named one more Claverling, Captain Clavering, Captain Archibald Clavering, Sir Hugh's brother, and when I shall have said that also that both Sir Hugh and Captain Clavering were men fond of pleasure and fond of money, I shall have said all that I need to say now about the Claverling family at large. So Captain Clavering, the rector, the brother of the late lord, etc., etc. You just have to chart it all out so you know who everybody is. Julia Brabazon had indulged in some reminiscences of the romance of her past life when she talked of courtship between her and Harry Claverling. Her sister was the wife of Henry Claverling's first cousin, but between her and Harry there was no relationship whatsoever. When old Lord Brabazon had died at Nice, she had come to Claverling Park and had created some astonishment among those who knew Sir Hugh by making her good footing in his establishment. He was not the man to take up a wife's sister and make his house her home, out of charity or from domestic love. Lady Claverling, who had been a handsome woman and a fashionable withal, was no doubt may have had some influence, but Sir Hugh was a man much prone to follow his own courses, as we're going to see. As with all men much prone to follow their own courses, he's going to pay a little for it in a Trollope novel. It must be presumed that Julia Brabazon had made herself agreeable in the house and probably also useful. She had been taken to London through 2 seasons and had there held up her head among the bravest. Seasons here meaning not seasons in the calendar, but basically mating seasons, where the young ladies go to London during season to show off and go to balls in search of a husband. Let's see here. And she had been taken abroad, for Sir Hugh did not love Claverling Park except during the 6 weeks of partridge shooting. And she had been at Newmarket with them, and at the house of a certain fast-hunting duke with whom Sir Hugh was intimate, and at Brighton with her sisters when it suited Sir Hugh to remain there alone at the duke's, and then up again at London when she finally arranged matters with Lord Ongar. It was acknowledged by all the friends of the 2 families, and indeed I may say of the 3 families now, among the Brabazon people, among the Claverling people, and the Courton people, Lord Ongar's family name was Courton, that Julia Brabazon had been very clever. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't sound like a compliment, does it? Of her and Harry Clavering together, no one had said a word. If any words had been spoken between her and Hermione on the subject, the two sisters had been discreet enough to manage that they should go no further. We can almost be certain that Hermione knows about Julia and Harry. But it's important. It's important to realize here, to read between the lines and realize that whatever her relationship was with Harry before, it is being suppressed. It is being covered in silence. In those short months of Julia's romance, Sir Hugh had been away from Clavering, and Hermione had been much occupied giving birth to an heir. Julia had now lived past her one short spell of poetry, had written her one sonnet, and was prepared for the business of the world. And that is the first chapter of the Claverlings. And there's a lot to say. First of all, we can note, those of you who have read some Trollope with me before, this is only the second Trollope that we're reading out loud, I think. But we've done lots of Trollope read-alongs. And so those of you who've read some Trollope before will notice how odd that beginning is. Trollope very much likes an enormous amount of throat clearing where he gives you the background information on every tree and rock before he starts his story in chapter 4. Nothing like that here. We start right at a gallop. And we're once again dealing with the ways and means of marriage. Only here, it could not be any clearer. Here, it could not be any clearer. Julia Brabazon makes it perfectly clear. I think it's pretty clear if you read between the lines that she has no affection for Lord Ongar. She says she loves him twice. But if Harry's disbelief is to be credited, if Lord Ongar is, or at least seems, much older than Julia, and from the seedy horse racing set of Mr. Juniper's world from Mr. Scarborough's family, if all of that is true, it seems impossible to believe that she loves him. And she says herself that she's marrying him for money. She's marrying him because otherwise she would be snuffed out like a candle. That is fruitful stuff here. That is fruitful stuff to start a book. I want to make one other point here. I won't stress it throughout the rest of the book. This is not a competition. This is not a contest. I know, and I can settle my own grievances on my own time. But I want to put forward, just gently, that chapter that we just read is not interested at all in impressing you with how clever the author is. It's not interested at all in over-the-top theatrics. It's a scene that you could easily overhear. It's a scene between real people having a real problem. We know some of it. We'll meet all the rest of the cast as the book goes on. But it's absolutely gripping for that reason. In other words, it's a scene the like of which you not only will not find anywhere in Charles Dickens, but that Charles Dickens couldn't write. Now, there are a lot of Dickens fans out there. I know, I've known plenty of them in my lifetime, but you have to like him for other things. You can't like him for this. This is quite different. So there we go. The one other element in this first chapter that you can get if you're paying real close attention is that I don't think we're going to like Sir Hugh Claverling at all. He lets his parks go to heck. He doesn't care about the old house. Doesn't really care about the opinions of other people. We're told even that he wouldn't take Julia Brabazon into his home for family reasons, that he must have some other reason. So we'll move on from there. That is the Claverlings chapter 1, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.